right, he's embarking on a 40-city speaking tour for his new book, 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos. Here's a clip from his Channel 4 interview that went viral earlier this year.
Why should your right to freedom of speech trump
I remember
a
this
trans person's right not to be offended?
Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. I mean, look at the conversation we're having right now. You know, like you're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable.
And then he smiled at her. Let's go, Jordan Peterson. Yeah, then he smiled at her. He was like, look, you've been offending me ever since I got here, sis. But you don't care. So, hey, this is what we do.
Please welcome Jordan Peterson.
That was smooth.
Hey, great pleasure to meet you.
How you doing?
I'm a big fan, as you might have guessed, and I love what you just said, that in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. And that went viral. That made you very famous. Why do you think that sparked such a reaction?
Well, because I think that what I was saying was self-evidently true, but not expressed very well very often. I mean, look, most of the time when you...
That's me, guys. So if you ever hear me say anything that offends you or something like that, trust me, I'm not trying to. I say everything so that it could be with the best intentions behind it possible. I'm not trying to offend anybody. If I wanted to offend you, trust me, you'll know that I'm trying to offend you. Most times, though, no, I'm not. I'm trying to start a conversation and learn some things. So I understand exactly what he's saying right here.
True, but not expressed very well very often. I mean, look,
they don't express them very well at all.
When you're discussing something that needs to be discussed, everybody's actually rather upset about it. You know, if you're actually talking about something important, right? Because why talk otherwise, unless you're just shooting the breeze? But if there's an issue at hand that has to be discussed, then people are already upset, and they have different viewpoints, and the offensiveness in some sense is built into that. And you know that because if you have a family, if you have a wife, if you have an intimate relationship, and you're discussing something that's difficult, the probability that you're not going to offend each other if you're actually having the conversation is zero. And
that is true.
You don't have to think unless you have a problem. And if you have a problem, then when you think, you're going to offend people.
Now that he said this, and I'm not going to do a whole bunch of talking, the fact that he said that, something that I know a great deal about is being married to my wife, not being married to yours. But when that does happen, guys, I'm talking specifically to the men. You don't have to win every argument. Say what you got to say. If you feel like you hurt her feelings, double back maybe an hour, 2 hours later, so that she can understand that what you said was your truth. But you do need to double back and let her know I meant no harm by that. What I was trying to get across was this. If I offended you, I apologize, and then move on. Also, if you like this style of content, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Also hit the bell so that next time we post something, you'll be first to be notified. And if you're one of my subscribers and supporters who lean more to the music reactions, go follow LFR Family Plus, where I will be putting a lot more of the music over there. Okay.
And so what, are we not going to think? That seems like a bad idea.
That seems like a bad idea.
You're obviously not an American. We love to not think.
Yeah, we do.
But, you know, I used to do a show called Politically Incorrect back in the 90s, and, oh, thank you.
Shameless plug.
The 90s, we remember them. And so I was always asked, what is your definition of political correctness? And I had to come up with one. I said, it's the elevation of sensitivity over truth. Which seems like what it still is, except it's worse than ever.
It's more like the elevation of moral posturing about sensitivity over truth. It's even worse.
Yeah.
That moral posturing is what pisses me off, because people feel like they're a little higher than somebody else when they're trying to, oh, I believe this, and what I believe is better than what you believe, and I'm sensitive.
So where did it come from? How did we get to this place where we're so fragile? The safe space people.
I think that you can pretty much blame it on the universities. I think that they've pursued, especially in the humanities and in the social sciences as well, they've pursued a policy of a radical leftist policy with an overlay of postmodernism, which kind of a literary criticism approach that's produced all of this. As far as I can tell, I think you can lay a lot of it at the feet of faculties like the faculties of education. There was an article in the Chronicle of Higher Education.
I wish you would have led with that, because a lot happens before anyone gets to a university and then are molded into thinking what they think past that. It's elementary. Elementary school is when it starts.
Feet of faculties like the faculties of education. There was an article in the Chronicle of Higher Education this week that just devastated the faculties of education, taking them to task for low academic standards and for possession by ideology and for basically indoctrinating people in a cult-like manner and playing identity politics and group identity.
And no free speech. They don't seem to. There was an incident in Fresno State. I don't know if you saw this, but Barbara Bush died. Okay, some professor there tweeted something nasty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wouldn't have tweeted it. She called Barbara Bush a racist and said she raised war criminals. Mm-hmm. Okay, you know, it's
yeah, well, the timing.
Wow.
This crowd likes it, but I mean, it's
this
nasty.
crowd likes it.
And they're considering suspending her. And here's what the president of the university said. He said, this was beyond free speech. This was disrespectful.
What?
Have we lost the thread back to knowing what free speech is? Yes, it can be disrespectful. That is covered under free speech. President.
That's true.
Fresno, you idiot.
That is true.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That is true. And guys, again, I have to say this again and again and again. I want you to install that on me when checking out my reactions. Understand that I too have free speech. I might piss you off a little bit, but I'm on your side. So hang in there. Don't just cut it off and then unsubscribe, because or write me a daggone long super. Well, I don't mind the super long emails, because that just shows me that you give a crap too. Like, I don't mind communicating with somebody who I know cares. Just the people that feel like your freedom of speech is not as important as mine. So screw you. Nah. For y'all, I'd probably whoop your ass.
Well, and you see this too. I think where it's manifesting itself in a particularly appalling manner is in the increasing unwillingness of comedians, for example, to go on university campuses to be funny. And when comedians start...
I'm one of them.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah, fuck them. I'm not going to... I call these people emotional hemophiliacs. You know, it's like the least little thing will make them start to bleed. But it makes me... because
the least little thing, though, come on. Some comedians said, oh, man, I'm going to stretch it even further this time, because it's comedy. Everything can't be covered under the cloak of comedy, because as time goes on, you understand that there's certain things that are far more sensitive these days than were sensitive back in the day. That's why a lot of people, I don't care if you're doing comedy or not, white people, if you decide to say the N-word, consequences and repercussions will come after that. So freedom of speech is, you need to read the room, okay? That's all I'm going to say. Read the room. If you are at one of 50 Cent or Jay-Z's concerts and they're saying, nigga this, nigga that, nigga that, nigga that, hey, and you're a fan and you bought that album and you purchased them daggone downloads, feel free to sing along. They're going to encourage it anyway. They're going to encourage it. Read the room. If you're there, hey. If you're at a college university and you're doing comedy and you decide to say retarded or use a homophobic slur, then, hey, consequences and repercussions. Don't always hang your head on no daggone freedom of speech, because people going to call you out.
Their answer is not to go into a room full of sharp objects. The answer is to make all of us wear bubble wrap.
Mm-hmm. Bubble boy.
Nothing we ever do makes them have a moment of discomfort. It's really also very narcissistic.
Well, there's also this idea that's promoted by the people who are protecting those who are easily offended, that the way to make people secure is to protect them from things that they don't want to encounter. And there isn't a clinician, like I'm a trained clinical psychologist, and there isn't a clinician in the country who's worth his or her salt that would ever make that claim. Because you don't make people, first of all, it's hard to make people safe, because life is seriously not safe.
Yeah. Go ahead, brother.
The way that you make people resilient is by exposing them to things that they're afraid of and that make them uncomfortable voluntarily, but you use exposure.
Right. I like that. I like that.
And so, like, if you over-coddle people, if you protect them from everything that's sharp, you make them dull and stupid and narcissistic, and it's a really bad idea. There's
so you do know America.
Kind of, sort of.
One thing I mean, your book is fantastic, and one of the rules that I really love is you say, don't let your kids do anything that would make you not like them. That's what I've been thinking for years. I like that. When I call them the fuck you mom generation. When I see kids, never in life because I never go near a child, but like on TV and movies, I see kids like saying fuck you mom. And I'm like, if somebody who wasn't your child did that, you'd be immensely offended, whereas the parents just take it. What's up with that?
Well, people don't like to admit that they can dislike their children or children in general, and right.
That's true. That's true.
No,
that is true.
I know what you mean.
That is true.
That
is true. They can.
No, they totally can.
One of the things you see very commonly as a clinical psychologist is family members who hate each other and who it's like they have their hands around each other's necks for 20 years and are squeezing very slowly, trying to strangle each other. And you see parents who clearly detest their children and have ever since they were born. And part of that, I know it's a terrible way of looking at things, but it's true.
It's so true.
And one of the things...
No, parents confide that in me because I don't have kids.
Yeah, well,
no.
That makes it safe.
They do.
But
no, but they say things like, yeah, I love my kids, but if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't.
Yeah, well, okay.
Like, well, don't tell the kid that.
But that's so bad. Look,
it is so bad.
So bad, because the thing is about little kids is that little kids have a wonderful element to them. And most people spontaneously like little kids, they'll give them a chance. And if you have little kids, one of the things that's so wonderful about it is that when you bring them out into the world, even people who aren't in good shape, rough people, and who maybe don't have much patience for humanity, it brings out the best in them, you know? And so people are willing to give your kids a chance. But then if they misbehave, especially if they're rude and they don't have any respect and they're whiny and they don't know how to listen, then people don't like your kids and you don't. And then your kids go out into a world where no one likes them. And that's what you, that's what you do to your kids if you don't like them.
Now, it's something though, because the way that I was raised almost ruined the relationship between me and my son, because I was taught that boys don't cry. So when I got my first, when my first son was born, and he cried the same way, I mean, the way that a child should, when that's how they communicate. They communicate based off of their level. That's how everyone communicates, based off of our levels. Please understand that we communicate based off of our levels. I'm not college educated. I dropped out of college 1 year because my wife was pregnant with our first daughter, and I grew up without a father, and I said my children will not. So I started working full time. Never went back because I really wasn't a fan of school anyway. So you can call that pregnancy a good excuse for me to say F school. Although I wanted to go back, but never had the desire. But anyway, it was certain qualities about my son that I thought was not supposed to be there as a young man, and I didn't handle that properly. I communicated that to him from my level, not necessarily from his, and there was a bad spot in our relationship for years and years and years to come. As a matter of fact, I'm still fixing it, and he is 22. So, yeah, there's that. So yeah, what he's saying is absolutely the truth, man. But you gotta definitely you gotta do what you gotta do when it's your children. You gotta do what you gotta do in order to fix that, even if you don't like it, because you're not gonna like everything that they do, because they're coming up in a time that you don't understand. They understand this time a lot more than you. You understood your time a lot more than them. And if you don't understand that, go on TikTok and try to figure out their world.
No one likes them. And that's what you, that's what you do to your kids if you don't like them, is you send them out into that world.
But how did parents get so whipped by their own children? I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, it's like they act the way a guy acts when he's super sprung on some chick and just lets her walk all over him, and whatever she does, he puts up with. I don't get how we got to that.
Well, I think parents are afraid of exercising authority because they tend to think that authority will crush the creative spirit of their child.
Oh, fuck.
Well, that is...
Honestly, I think that's giving more to... I think that's disingenuous, too. I think a lot of parents do it because... honestly, nobody has shown us love more than our children. And when we see that that love is starting to wane and we know that it's within our power to fix that and adjust it, we do it. We do it. Yes, we want them to have the freedom and everything to do what they want to do. We want them to have their own wings, live their own lives. But when we see that they're starting to not really show us the attention or love that we feel they've shown us in the past, like you used to love talking to me. You used to be in my face showing me all the goofy stuff. Now I can't even get you out your room to say one word to me. You act like you hate me and I do everything for you. Blah, 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 blah. And we're going back and forth off of the reciprocal. Like, I do this, why don't you still do this? Back in the day, you used to do this. Now you don't. So it's all about what that relationship, and we feel that relationship growing further and further and further apart. So we start to ignore the signs or some of the ignorant stuff that we wouldn't let anyone else get away with. Anyone. I don't give a damn who you are. We won't let them get away with it. But our children, we'll let them get away with it because those are the ones that we have the most invested into, if that makes any sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I see, everything this man says, I think is common sense.
You guys should have a baby together.
Yeah, we should have a baby together. It's like we get crucified for what we say. I don't think anything we say is controversial at all.
It's hard.
Do you think he's controversial?
It's hard. I just had a kid. It's hard figuring it out. And by the way, everyone is neurotic. That's why we have a hard time raising children the right way, because we live in the most neurotic, insane, over-connected, crazy world. Yes. Donald Trump is our president.
Right,
How are we expected to raise normal children?
I know.
It's a crazy time, Bill.
Okay, well.
Honestly, I believe raising children at a time where Donald Trump was the president was a good time for children to see that you can still be yourself and go as far as you want to go in life. I don't see that as a bad thing at all. I don't. Because Donald Trump, he changed the game when it came to being the president. He wasn't all tight-bootied, walking around like the rest of the people, afraid to say what he wanted to say. Nah, he said whatever the hell he wanted to say. Whatever he felt like he wanted to say, he said it. Whatever he wanted to do, he did it. And I'm thinking, look, if you the boss, you should be able to do that. If I own McDonald's, don't expect for me to show up when everybody else show up. I'm coming when I want to come. I'm walking behind the daggone aisle, behind the counter. I'm going to grab me a few fries and a nugget. I'm going to start dipping them right there. And I'm leaving. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. That's what he did. That's what he did. He did what he could do within his power. And I think if a child is looking at that, they will have no issue with it. What they would have an issue with is other adults saying, you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to act this way. You're not supposed. And they're like, whoa, I thought being an adult meant you can do what you wanted to do. So that will confuse the hell out of them. But I want to hear what y'all got to say about this in the comments below. If you have yet to hit that subscribe button, please make sure you do so on your way out the door. Once again, guys, I am Van, and now we are all the LFR family. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video, hopefully inside the Patreon as well. You guys have been amazing. Love you.